Alright, I'm finally getting around to this. For those of you not in the know, I recently completed my first playthrough of Hollow Knight, and I really liked it. And by recently, I definitely mean recently, and not an entire 2 months ago, not at all, don't worry about that. This ranking of Hollow Knight bosses is from worst to best based off my first impressions of the game and the bosses therein, as well as 10 of the cocktails that I made for the bosses, as well, which I'll say for the top 10 entries. No God Home variants, because I'm a coward, and I'm sure my opinions on these bosses and the game as a whole will change after a few playthroughs, but again, this is based purely on my first playthrough. Also, this ranking and my hot takes are purely subjective and my own opinion, so just remember that when I rank Flukmarm as the greatest fight in the game. So, without further ado, let's rank them. Number 25, Flukmarm. Number 24, Gru's Mother. I don't think I can say much about this boss, honestly. At least nothing new that countless other rankings have mentioned, that it's basically just beating up a pregnant mother and her children. I found this boss pretty late in my playthrough, where I'd already upgraded my nail, and she fell really quickly, and was just very uninteresting. Sure, it's supposed to be that way, because she's an early game boss, but it doesn't really make it good or fun. Number 23, Marmu. You like volleyball? Ping pong? Sure, Marmu's cute and fun, makes funny little noises when you bat him around like a beach ball. But does that make for a good boss? Nah, not really. I had to look up what his name was just because I'd completely forgotten it. It's not very engaging or difficult in any which way, and it's not really offering much in the way of storytelling or personality. Sorry, Marmu. Number 22, Umu. The only reason this fight gets anywhere higher than the bottom three is because Quirrell pops out and basically just controls the entire pace of the fight, to where you can be engaging, platforming, to avoid the electrical shocks, and the jellyfish itself, or it becomes an absolute slog while you wait for Quirrell to actually do something, because it's completely invulnerable otherwise, and it's just and then you get one hit in, maybe two, and you like bounce it halfway across the arena because it's such a featherweight. It's so annoying. That really is the worst thing. Hitting him launches him back completely out of reach, and you just have to platform all over again, and by the time you do that, he's invulnerable again. Not egregious by any means, just annoying and bland. Also, his God Home version sucks, and I hate it a lot. Number 21, Gorb. At least he is some kind of personality. It's a pretty bland one, but he's basically like, I'm Gorb, come get a taste. Which, I can vibe with that. His nail projectiles might seem really intimidating, and the rate at which he fires them at, but it's nothing really to write home about. He goes down like a sack of bricks lined with tungsten after a few howling shrieks. Number 20, Brooding Malek. Oh man, this boss is probably the first one that I really did not like. Not the one I hated the most, that sucker's coming up next. But this thing filled me with such hatred. And you know, I really don't know why. Maybe it's because fighting him early on without many charms severely decreases the distance and damage of your nail. Maybe it's the weird elevation you're on where you can barely jump over him to get to the other side when you need to. Or maybe it's all those, plus the enormous amount of goo it sprays at you, which you can't avoid if you're on the wrong side, forcing you to jump over to the other side, which is difficult because of the terrain, and I can go on and on and on and on about it. Oh, and if you get too close to it, he'll just hit you with his claw. Yeah, skill issue, I know, but I don't like it. I just don't like it. I can't defend it. The only reason is this high because you get a mask shard from it, otherwise he would be in my bottom three. Number 19, Lost Kin. Oh, here we go. Time to rant, baby. Now, for those of you who saw my original episode where I fought this piece of shit, you'll know exactly how I feel about this guy. Now, its previous fight with the Broken Vessel is just fine. Inoffensive, mildly entertaining, some cool lore implications, and you get the Monarch's wings. Cool, no problem. Great, love it, no notes. This if a can go skydiving without a parachute, and unlike Brooding Malek, I can tell you exactly why. This fight gives you no time to do anything. Lost Kin's moveset isn't really offensive, that's not the problem. Its dashes and nail swipes are fine, easily predictable and avoidable with good opportunity attacks, that's fine. What's not easy to predict and capitalize on is the way this f***er jumps around on top of you with no warning, seemingly able to track and predict wherever you go so you can't heal at all. Seriously, this fight gives you no room to heal, because if the Lost Kin isn't the one jumping on top of you, the little orange flying blobs spawning at an alarming rate that'll cancel out what little healing window you have anyway. Seriously, this is basically just an RNG fight with the orange blobs. Yeah, I know you can rush him, and if you just do a ton of damage, but like that's not really how I like to play. I like to play movesets and everything, and I hate it because there's no moveset here. It's just RNG randomness all the time. You either have to spend your healing window, not healing to fight the blobs, position to maybe get a heal, or keep willing on a Lost Kin, which will knock him out of the stagger, ruining any chance you had of healing anyway. This is such a weirdly paced fight, and I hate it. Feel free to tell me how much I suck in the comments, seriously. And I'd still call this fight better than the others because it's at least more engaging, not because I really like it more. This is probably my least favorite fight in the entire game, hands down. Well, on first impression alone, but you know, things change. Number 18, Crystal Guardian and Enraged Guardian. Ah yes, the boss made of rocks.
They're minerals.
Despite the slight jump scare he gives you being pretty solid, thinking he's an NPC only to attack you, he's only higher because he doesn't piss me off like nothing else, and he's easy. That's it. Pretty boring fight. Lasers are easy to dodge, easy to damage, boring. Moving on. Number 17, Zote. Now how did Zote get this high? Easy. It's cathartic. After dealing with this obnoxious the whole game talking about how much better he is than you and insulting you all of the time, you get to ragdoll him around to your heart's content. He's a Reddit monitor, and I don't think I have to expand on that. The only thing more satisfying than this is leaving him to die to the bench fly. Number 16, Grey Prince Zote. Ugh, how do I talk about this guy? Alright, buckle in, folks. You're in for some pretty hot takes here. Really spicy hot. If you're still around after this, I applaud you, seriously. I'm going to go on a little rant here, but just bear with me. First, the boss. It's no secret this guy is one of the most hated fights in the game, and for good reason. He doesn't really have any combos to speak of except for the 2 slashes he does occasionally, but let's break down his moveset if you want to call it that. His ground slams aren't the hardest thing to dodge, but the shockwave sizes seem completely random at times to either short enough to calmly jump over or big enough to drown Japan. Next, his teleporting slams, probably the most annoying thing he has. The tracking is beyond comprehension and frustrating to say the least. Not only does he track you to the ends of the earth, but then there's also the shockwaves that come afterwards. And next we have him just sprinting at you like a coward, flailing his sword around and falling on his face. Okay, here we go. Hot take time. Hottest take of the video that will probably get 90% of you who are still watching to click off, go to the comments, berate me, unsubscribe, whatever. Alright, here's the right take. I don't enjoy Hollow Knight as much as I did when I first played it. I don't enjoy it as much as other people do, and I'm sorry. What do I mean by that? Compared to other games that I played, now granted, I am not a Metroidvania person. Hollow Knight was my first Metroidvania. I have never played any other games like this before, unless you count like Metroid Fusion from 2008 that I played when I was 10. With other games in mind, I just don't enjoy the combat very much, shaky hitboxes, general rhythm of combat. It's just not really my thing, and I play these games because I love the combat. 9 Souls, Dark Souls, Sekiro, Elden Ring. I play Souls-likes because I love the combat, and I love the stories and the world around the combat, but the combat is a huge part of it. And Hollow Knight's combat, to me, is just not my favorite thing. It feels like you're playing keep away rather than learning. It's not to say it's a bad game, I'm just learning that hardcore Metroidvanias like Hollow Knight might just not be my thing, despite adoring 9 Souls. And I think Grey Prince Zote was my first indication of this just not really being my kind of game, you know? With my opinions on it being cemented after playing more of the game afterwards to capture footage. His moves, if you want to call them that, highlight a problem I have with Hollow Knight in general, which I know this is going to get me eviscerated in the comments, but here we go. I don't like the idea of just being touched by an enemy's body, or touching the body of an enemy when they're not doing anything of damage. I'm sorry, it's just not my cup of tea. I found myself worrying about that more than bothering to learn movesets. Which I get it. Look, I know this game is so well beloved, and I like it too. I really do. I don't hate the game. This is just a part of the game that I'm not the biggest fan of, and why I don't think after this ranking video I'm going to be going back to Hollow Knight anytime soon. If you take the physical frame hitbox out of the equation, and just have moves that do damage, I'd be singing a different tune. Lampoon me in the comments, I'm ready, but I am enjoying 9 Souls far more than I ever did Hollow Knight. And I think the combat is a huge part of it. I love the combat in 9 Souls. It is fast, aggressive, every moment counts. And Hollow Knight, I felt like I was just kind of standing there like waiting for moves to be over before I could move a little bit, hit things like twice, and then run away again. Look, I just prefer a combat system like 9 Souls or Sekiro, or even Dark Souls. And like, I know that's like not the most innovative thing, you know, roll, hit. But I don't know. I just find that better. Look, everything's subjective at the end of the day. If you guys want to come attack me in the comments, come on, it's the internet. You can attack my character brutally with no repercussions. So have fun. Now, what I might do is make a comparison video. I've actually been thinking about that because I think it could be very interesting from a guy like me who has no experience with Metroidvanias. Zero, none. I got nothing. And then playing 2 back-to-back, Hollow Knight and 9 Souls, I think that could be a fun video. So if you guys want that, comment. No, you might be asking yourself, why this diatribe in the middle of a ranking video of an incredibly popular video game to make the entire Hollow Knight community come after? Well, here's the thing. This fight, you're not avoiding Zote's attacks. You're avoiding Zote, his physical frame. Avoiding the sword and charge is very entertaining because you can jump, pogo off his head, and use that as a great method for damage. I actually really like that move. It's fun. but then he falls on his face at random times. And yeah, I know he's like an idiot. I get it. I get the story. But then you just fall on top of him and it damages you anyway. I don't know. It just feels cheap to me, you know? There was a moment when I was fighting him for the very first few times and I stunned him and he was falling backwards. And as he fell backwards, his foot hit me and killed me. I just don't like that. I think it's bad design. That's just me. Oh yeah, the flying minions. They're annoying. I've rambled about this fight enough. And if you made it here, past this hot take and maybe bad take, however you want to view it, I applaud you. And so it was only this high, because at least this boss made me feel something, even if that something is pure, unadulterated vitriol. Number 15, No Eyes. Now we're getting into the mid-tier bosses I don't really find particularly irritating, but they don't really stand out to me in any meaningful way. Starting off the mid-tier, we've got No Eyes. By far the least interesting of the more interesting dream fights. Try to make sense of that sentence. No Eyes is really just carried by her design and creepy ambiance. The fight itself isn't very engaging. It's just a semi-challenging platforming segment while she teleports around singing creepily at you and dodging ghosts like Pac-Man. I'll give you points for intrigue, No Eyes, but that's all you're getting. You're not quite on this level of nightmare fuel. Nosk. Speaking of, Nosk is here too. While the design and boss and atmosphere of this fight is really cool, it's not that interesting of a fight per se. Granted, I find it much more later in my playthrough than most ever would, but it doesn't really mean it's great. Most damage and attacks can be avoided by hiding in the little corners of the arena while it runs over you for free damage. And it's really only somewhat dangerous attack. It has it dangling from the ceiling like Ludwig the Accursed and spitting orange goo at you and sticks to the ground for a while. Yeah, it's kind of weird. His charge isn't too hard to avoid, but its creepy design, dead bodies floating around the arena, and the lead up to the fight itself really elevates it up to the middle tier. Next up, we have Markoth. Yeah, I know his Radiant Godhood version is super annoying, but that's not what I'm ranking here. It's my first impression of my first playthrough, so he gets up here. Pretty fun fight, if not a little crazy. He reminds me of Zero a bit, with the added annoyance of the spinning shield around him, and then 2 spinning shields around him. The nails that he shoots are a lot more random and chaotic than what Zero does, which I'm not a fan of. And the way he just kind of floats away from you all the time, really annoying, but I enjoyed it for the most part. Now we got a threefer, Galleon, Elder Hugh, and Zero. Now how did these goobers get so high, you might be wondering to yourself? Well, in my own purely objective opinion that cannot be refuted, I just think they're neat. There's nothing too special about any of them, honestly. And if I was making this video with how I feel about Galleon now after fighting him more in the Pantheons, he'd be a lot lower. They weren't that difficult though, but they were definitely the most engaging early game fights for sure, so sure, they're nothing compared to the highs of the Mantis Lord, Soulmaster, or Hornet, but they offer more than any of the other Dream Warrior fights. Elder Hu's slam attack having varying timings, dodging patterns, track, Zero has you dealing with multiple projectiles, and so does Galleon. If you think about it, all 3 of these fights are really training you for the rest of the game. The Collector is a weird one. I think the only thing that gets the Collector this high is his design and personality. His combos, if you want to call them that, are very easy to dodge. He just kind of jumps around, but it's surprisingly satisfying. The enemies that spawn in don't offer too much trouble, especially if you've upgraded your nail a few times. All in all, not a bad fight, but mostly is carried by design and personality. As a first boss for a beloved video game, you could do a lot worse. I think a lot of first boss fights do a pretty good job at showing the player what's going to be expected of them throughout the entire game. It's supposed to set the tone, and I think the False Knight does a good job. It teaches the importance of keeping your distance, but not too much or you'll miss out on opportunities for damage, but you also can't run into them or you'll get hurt, which despite my problems with that design in general, it's still a good teaching tool here. His moveset isn't overly oppressive either, with well-telegraphed jumps and slams. And he does his freak out slam attack, which is to teach the player that not just the boss you have to watch out for, but the environment as well. Falling rocks make you stay on your toes without becoming oppressive to dodge both him and the rocks. The Dream variation, however, Failed Champion, turns this up to 11. Rocks fall constantly now, he jumps around faster, more often. As well, his hits and body slams do 2 massive damage instead of 1. All in all, great set of fights. Alright, I'm going to break my own rules here a little bit, and that's because my rules and reasons are beyond human understanding and otherworldly, nebulous. If this was based off my first playthrough, Hive Knight would be a lot higher, as it was a cool moment for me as a still fairly new Hollow Knight player. I'd stumbled into the Hive, never found a bench, and nearly died several times before unwittingly stumbling into the Hive Knight's arena and beating him on the first try with 1 mask left. That rush of adrenaline, I think it made me think the fight was better than it actually is. It's not a bad fight, it's up here for a reason. But after a few more times and gathering footage, it's not as engaging as I previously thought. His cross slash is fun to jump and pogo off of, but that's kind of it. The spikes that shoot out of the little balls that pop up are annoying to dodge. and then he vomits exactly 1,000 bees into the air and still attacks you is mildly entertaining. Nostalgia from the first time, though, was just carrying him really high. But his ranking is here because he does offer more than most other fights. So the Soul Master and Soul Tyrant might be one of the better bosses that I have the least to say about. It's just a good fight. One thing I love about Hollow Knight is how a lot of the enemies in the areas before a boss are prepping you for the boss itself, with some exceptions. The enemies in the Soul Sanctum prepare you for the Soul Master by learning how to evade the orbs they shoot at you, as well as the mini-boss that dies down at you. It all plays into the boss fight, which I really like. Not to mention the fake-out victory into Phase 2 really got me the first time. All in all, great fight. So I've watched a few ranking videos on Hollow Knight now, and I almost never see these guys get praised. And I think that's a damn shame. But before I praise them, why is this boss called Watcher Knight when there's more than one? That's just false advertising. Now for the praise. Dodging out of the way of their 3-hit combos is super satisfying to get to the other side and wail on them. Sorry, 2 hit. The roll attack they do is pretty fun to dodge as well, though I could do without the crazy bouncing. When 2 Watcher Knights are up, it really doesn't become that difficult to deal with. Just watch your dodges and your pacing, you should be fine. And now we're starting off the cocktail rankings, in which we have the 8th entry, the Hornet cocktail. I was a little pressed for time when I made this one, so I'll be the first to admit it's not my best work. That being said, I didn't really have a lot to go on with this boss. Yes, she's great character, and I love her too. But there aren't a lot of themes, moves, and arena designs that I had to go on. She's just a high-stress lady. So I thought to myself, what do high-stress ladies drink? Martinis. It's a martini riff, using lavender water, apple bitters, Campari, Blanc Vermouth. Unfortunately, for both Hornet and the drink, martinis just aren't my thing. So I gotta give this the lowest spot on the list. Can we all agree that DMod doesn't know what he's talking about with this boss fight and revoke his Souls-like veteran card? Kidding, I'm obviously kidding, everything is subjective and we all experience things differently. Look, I mean, hey, if you guys made it this far, you already sat through one of my hot and maybe bad takes of the game, so you're still here, and everything's subjective, man. But this boss fight, really, it's awesome. I'm tired of people ignoring it. The big slashes are so fun to jump over and pogo off his head to get to the other side. That jump into the air with the diagonal slash downwards is so smooth to dash to the side and get some hits in. It's a fight you want to have Shade Cloak for, as one of the pillar moves is impossible to avoid. You can't run away from it. You have to dash through it or just tank it. But trust me, you do not want to tank this boss. It is not the way to go. 2 masks per hit. Don't want to do it. Maybe that's why DMod hates it so much, because he can't unga bunga his way through it. Coming in at the cocktail number 7 spot, the second lowest cocktail on the list, we have the Hollow cocktail, created for the titular boss fight. Now, here's the thing. I actually like this drink just fine. Here's where my issue in it lies, though. This is a summer drink, and a summer drink only. Lemon, honey syrup, passion fruit, gin with topped with tonic water. It's great, but it really only works for those couple of months of the year, and in those months, I'd rather make something a little more simple, like a gimlet or a daiquiri naturel. My original plan for this drink was to use activated charcoal to turn it black, but then have it still taste bright and bubbly, sort of to mirror how the Hollow Knight appears in one way, but has the infection that bursts outside in the second phase. All in all, not a bad drink, I just think there are much better ones. Yes, I know it's canon, she says get good before you fight the Radiants, and yes, it's awesome. Hornet is a great fight both times, quick but not too oppressive. Every attack she does in her first fight has room to punish for if you're quick, which you have to be to not only fight her, but also just fight any boss or enemy in the game as a whole. And seeing as how in the story Hornet is testing you to see if you're worthy of supplanting the Hollow Knight, it's fitting. I am curious to see how we'll be able to play her at Silksong though. That'll be a fun game. Our number 6 cocktail is the Sparkling Radiance, and I'll give you about 2 seconds to guess which boss this is based after. Anyway, I think this drink also has the same problem as the Hollow cocktail. While I like it, it suffers from the same drawback as the former drink, and one much bigger drawback that would stop me from making this again unless I was making it for a dozen people. The drink is topped with champagne or Prosecco. It's a pretty heavy punish on your wallet just to make one drink and your conscience. So again, unless you're making it for a lot of people or you've got something else to do with that Prosecco or champagne, it's not worth it. So why is it higher than the Hollow cocktail then, despite that huge downside? Well, to me, it just tastes better. I modeled it after a French 75, and that's a great drink, so it's hard to not like this one. The Hollow Knight confused me at first. I was all set and ready to fight the Hollow Knight and then the Radiants, only to be blasted with the credits after being sealed away as the new vessel. That was shocking, to say the least. I didn't realize you had to do a whole D&D side quest and platforming to unlock the Radiance fight. But before we get to that, let's talk about the Hollow Knight. While I'd be tempted to call it a disappointing final boss, it's not really the final boss. I beat it on my first try with very little effort, and that wasn't what I was looking for in a final boss. But like I said, he's not the final boss, so that aside, the fight's awesome. His little triple slash is so entertaining to dash through or jump over, pogo off of. His slam attack that shoots pillars out of the ground looks awesome and feels really cool to avoid. And when that base 2 hits and that music changes, the Hollow Knight starts damaging itself, you can't help but feel bad for it. The moves where he shoots the infection everywhere and bounces around, it's not really stand out to me, but it's thematic and appropriate. As a standalone boss and the guardian to the Radiance, Hollow Knight really deserves to have the game named after him. Our 5th ranked cocktail coming in hot with the Earthen Nail, or as Light of Colossus likes to call it, the Pure Challenge, named and themed after the Mantis Lord's boss fight. This was, I think, the first themed drink I ever made around a boss fight, outside of the nameless drink from my Lies of P series, so I was pretty new to this whole thing. That being said, it was a pretty good one. Smoky and earthen from the Mezcal and Green Chartreuse substitute, with a nice lime undertone and mole bitters finish. It was a solid one to be sure, great drink. So I was going to rank the Dung Defender and the White Defender separately, but I figured it made more sense to rank the two together and really rank the better of the two. Unlike the False Knight and Failed Champion, these fights have a big difference between the two versions. White Defender is not only more active with more thrown projectiles, but also has a few more dangerous moves to watch out for, honestly. His slam into the ground that sends walls of stone have to be dashed through, but he's varying durations and distances depending on your position, I think. His swimming dive into dung balls now has 3 times the projectiles and far fewer openings. I could be dead wrong about all of this, by the way, but to me the White Defender just seems to have so much more to go off of than the Dung Defender, but both are excellent fights. Just missing the top 3 cocktails for the series, we got number 4, the Silent Vigil, created for Lurien the Watcher. And yeah, he's not a boss fight, but the presence and majesty of Lurien was something I couldn't ignore. And though I agree with some of the comments that he probably would have been the least likely character to drink, I can't help but think of Lurien sipping on this drink while looking out over the City of Tears. Taking inspiration from multiple classic nightcap drinks, I used coffee liqueur and vanilla syrup to give some smooth sweetness to the bourbon and cognac that was used as a base. Also, if you're finding this video before you've seen that one, don't watch it. I haven't figured out lighting techniques. It's a little rough. Don't do it. Alright, kicking off the top 3, we got the final boss of Hollow Knight, the Radiance. I don't think much needs to be explained as to why the Radiance is up here. It's just an amazing fight. And to be clear, this is just Radiance, not absolute Radiance. I am way too bad at the game, and my patience is way too thin to even try to get there. Honestly, I just really don't care to do the Pantheons. I don't like them. As far as final fights go, Radiance has it all. Complex moveset, interesting and dangerous environmental hazards, grand skill and design, awesome music, and a cinematic finish. Everything is firing on all cylinders, avoiding the floor spikes while dodging the homing golden spheres, nails flying in from the side at varying heights and downwards, the moving golden wave you have to dash through, and the nails and light beams shooting out from at different angles. It's just all so much fun to juggle it. Then phase 2 hits, and you have to do all of that, minus the floor spikes, while platforming all around the arena while Radiance teleports around and shoots snails and light rays at you at even higher interval and volume. The final ascent into the sky with the void rising up with you, dodging out of the way of radiant light beams, while not really that challenging, is super charming and beautiful. It's hard not to love. This is a great fight, but somehow I still don't think it holds a candle to the top 2. Taking the bronze and the best handcrafted cocktails, the Hollow Knight series, we got the Dream Nail Spritz. Definitely the best summer drink I've created so far. Beautiful floral notes from lavender water, lavender syrup, creme de violet, lemon and tonic water topping give it a wonderful brightness that rounds out any juniper flavors from the gin. All around an excellent summer drink, and as summer is fast approaching, I'm definitely going to be breaking this one out for friends. Second place goes to the Mantis Lords. Now, before I started Hollow Knight, a friend of mine told me that the Mantis Lords fight makes you feel like the main character, and he was right. The blistering speed for how early in the game you find it can feel overwhelming at first, but once you get into the rhythm and jump over the first Lord's sideways dash, plunging attack, finding the healing windows, when the discs are thrown at you, it becomes immensely satisfying. My particular favorite is the sideways dash where you can time it, jump over her, and get a downward slash in for some quick damage. This fight is all about finding hits very quickly after dodging an attack, something the rest of the game really depends on you knowing. The fight kicks up to an 11 when you knock out the first Mantis Lord, and then the remaining 2 sisters jump down to clap back at you. The moveset is the same as the first sister, but now they overlap their attacks with one another, sometimes a double downward plunge, one after the other, downward plunge with a side dash, double disc throw. It's so immensely satisfying to recognize all the patterns, learn it, jump over it. It's just great. A little easier than the other fights for sure, but for how early you find them, it's a good amount of difficulty and fun to set the tone for the rest of the game. So, like I said, silver medals are hard, and for the cocktails, it's not going to be any easier. This one is going to go for the drink I themed around Nightmare King Grim. While this is probably my favorite tasting drink of the bunch, I think there's a big downside to it, which I'll get into in a moment. Smoky, fiery, spicy, like the Nightmare King himself, it's a drink that takes no prisoners, shows you what it's about up front, and doesn't leave you asking any questions. Spiced rum, chili liqueur, smoked chili bitters, and a touch of simple syrup, and you're off to the races for an amazing drink. So why does it miss out on being number one? The presentation. While you could simply make this drink without lighting it on fire, where's the fun in that? Fire is bright, fire is clean. However, lighting the drink on fire and dropping cinnamon over it is awesome and a cool spectacle. It takes a decent amount of work, and I just don't always want to do that. Sometimes I just want to drink. It'd be much easier to just forego the fire, swap out the simple syrup with cinnamon syrup and Bob's your uncle, but despite that, incredible drink. Number one, Nightmare King Grim. Now, this is a fight. If you're somehow still here after I mentioned that I'm not the biggest fan of Hollow Knight as I was when I first started playing the game, and the whole hitboxes thing, I applaud you, and this is my gift to you. No boss in this entire game, and maybe even most other games, gets me as pumped, adrenaline-fueled, and excited to fight as Nightmare King Grim. I don't even know where to begin. Design, music, arena, moveset. There's like everything about this fight is peak. I thought the normal Grim fight was a standout fight in the game, unlike pretty much anything else I had seen up to that point. Then when the Nightmare Heart opened and I got that title card and music, I was in danger. 50-something tries later, yes, 50, I'm not kidding, I knew this was going to be my top fight. Moveset, amazing. While oppressive and aggressive, there's still plenty of windows to heal if you know how to find them. They often come with the downside of having to sacrifice a damage opportunity, but it's a small price to pay when each bit of damage the Nightmare King does inflicts 2 masks of damage. A lot of his moves carry over from the regular Grim fight, with a few notable changes. Both his side claw attack into a jump and his downward side lunging attack now have a trailing hitbox. So it's not enough to just do a little light hop over the Ringmaster. Instead, you got to be much more mindful about spacing your landings, whether you double jump over it or pogo off his head. The flame pillars that appear while he floats, I originally didn't like, but they offer a great opportunity for damage and healing windows. The flying bats are even more fun to avoid than the normal fight, as now you can't just flippantly jump over and dash to him. Now you gotta jump through all 4 of them in order to be granted a decent attack window. The balloon move is, well, okay, I guess they all can't be perfect, but damn it, it's the only move I don't like in the entire arsenal, because I think it just kind of kills the pacing of the fight. Music, it's peak. What do you want from me? You know it, I know it, Chris Larkin knows it, it's stellar, no notes. Arena, pretty awesome. Sure, it's static, but the spectacle of the crowd watching you and laughing at you during the latter half of the fight is just awesome. I gotta stop. I can go on all day about this guy. It's great. What do you want from me? And for my number 1 slot of cocktail, it's going to go to the Night Ender. Sadly, one of my least favorite bosses resulted in the best drink. The boss, of course, being grapefruit soaked. Yes, I am a sucker for a good rye whiskey drink, and when you throw in a little sherry, a little demerara, a little vanilla, game over. It's a beautifully elegant sipping drink and a perfect nightcap. There's not much else to say about that one. Well, there you have it, folks. My list of Hollow Knight's bosses from worst to best. Once again, this is just my opinion. If you made it here past my hot takes and maybe even my bad takes, I thank and applaud you. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, comment what your favorite boss is, and or tear me a new one for not liking Hollow Knight as much. And if this idea of combining cocktails and video games is something that intrigues you, feel free to subscribe and watch my other videos. My 9 Soul series just wrapped up, and I'm starting the new one of Expedition 33 is coming after this video. So with that out of the way, drink responsibly, game often. I'll see you guys soon. Cheers.